Okay, we've got, um, I don't know how this works. Like, are you actually watching when, it's up like this as it is now, or is this just like right now we've got the little weeble wobbles in the top corner on my end here, and I'm not sure if that's necessarily saying that this is the or if this is just like people waiting for it who ask for notifications or whatnot. But I had to shower before I started to do my hair and my dye day thing. So I just got out of the shower maybe 5 minutes ago, plugged everything in because leeches what's this called, battery life out of my phone like nobody's business. Will this let me turn on the flash so that we can see me more properly? Really? Why are we doing this, phone? Oh, there we go. Enable flash. Hello, Desert Witch and Angie Oni Girl, I think. That's how you want me to say it. So, yeah, I'm going to go back to my pantry, which is in this furthest corner right thereabouts. Get my double boiler. And okay. Hearing me trip over things. So, what was I tripping over? I was, a couple days ago, I went out to take in the bottle returns. If you're not in Michigan and you don't, yesterday I went to take in the recycling at literally, I got there at literally the last possible minute to get there. They close at 6 on Saturdays. I got there at, okay, maybe not literally the last minute, but it was something like 3 minutes to 6 when I got there. It was thing had just been building up, and because I'm whereas most of the apartments on this street are converted from old Victorian and Edwardian houses, as in like the period they were built. Um, Not many of them have the most. Hello, Emerald Stushen. I think that's how you want to say it. I think that's how it is acceptably pronounced in some regions where that's a more common last name. But yeah, so I okay, I did not take in the bottle. I did not take in bottle returns yesterday. On. I took them in on Friday, and but I did pick up a few other deposit bottles that can be returned. I picked up like almost an extra dollar's worth yesterday on my way back home. Part of that had to do with the fact that I had to stop and do a couple of things before I got home. Okay, I think there's a delay in the stream because I'm looking slightly off here, but that's okay. As long as it's streaming, and I have Emerald saying that I pronounced her name close enough, so I'm assuming everybody else can see me stream. So yeah, with the oh, that's all still in the bathroom. Holy crap! I'll be right back. This video is to you by Dollar Shave Club. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/brainfood to get your first. Okay, so I told you I'd be right back. I was gone like maybe a little under a minute. Okay, so yeah, I just when I got back home, so I have this large shopping cart because I don't see well enough to drive, therefore I don't have a license, much less a car, so I take the bus. And in order to do certain chores outside the home that I must do, sometimes I need to carry around a lot of crap around with me, such as the recycling, which I have separated up into three brown shopping bags. Seems to have gone on a pause. That's quite possible. I know there's a bit of a delay with the stream on my end, but I'm afraid that if I back out and something worse is going to happen. To wrap up what I had been saying, I just slightly I don't know. I was not in the I was not physically in the mood. Well, I was for a little bit, but then I sat down to do what passed for dinner last night, and then after I was doing some dinner and fed the cats and all of that, suddenly my back, like right in the middle of my back. So this is something that I definitely want to bring up with my doctor. I can't remember if my appointment with her is next month or early December. I'll check my date book when I'm less busy with stuff. So, um, but yeah, by the time my back started, saying nope, you're done with stuff. Really, I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to fix that because one person is saying that the stream is going, and we've got another person saying that it's not, and I don't know how to fix that. I really don't. Like you can try, like, I don't know, closing the window and reopening it, I suppose, because if I tried doing any, like, until I'm like, oh yay, you're fixed. Okay, yeah, because like I said, unless I suddenly see it go from, like, 9, 10 people in the watching the stream to suddenly zero, um, I don't really think it's going to be worth the potential disruption of the stream to, back out myself and then try and resume back in, because when I try that, maybe half the time I have to completely start a new stream, and I don't like that because of a number of reasons, such as, now I have two streams, archived, or I don't know. It's stupid. It's stupid, but yeah. So, my double boiler. This is what I use to do my henna blocks from Lush, and I know the instructions recommend, it says something like, balance a a thing, a heat resistant glass bowl, or heat safe glass bowl on top of a saucepan of boiling water. But that's basically what a double boiler is. I was looking stuff up about henna and how best to use it, like in general, not just the Lush blocks, which are solidified with cocoa butter. Um, yeah, that's totally what this is. Like, in addition to the fact that it says that it's got cocoa butter in it, like, leave it in a apartment that has been going back and forth between humid, warm, and a little too chilly for the last week and a half, almost 2 weeks now. Yeah, it blooms out like chocolate without an emulsifier. So yeah, this is definitely cocoa butter in here. So yeah, the important thing when you're mixing henna, whether it's whether you're melting the blocks, the solid blocks from Lush, or you're from the powder yourself, you don't want it touching metal, which is also why the Lush blocks recommend using a wooden spoon. But I myself, I just use my I just use this because it's relatively heat resistant. At least in the double boil. This is what I've been using like the last 3 months. I've been dyeing my hair, just like an old how much was it? It was $27.95, so basically $28. A little under 30 after tax. So yeah, let's see. I've got my brush, and I had clips. I had clips that I left in the kitchen last, and they're supposed to be right here. Okay, there's one. My kitchen is a mess right now. Oh yeah, that's not terrible, especially in my case. I know. Oh crap! What's her name? The hoarder. The Halloween hoarder. What's her name? Oh, Haunted Bat. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sure she's a lovely young lady in some ways. We all are in some ways, at least to some people. But some of her videos, when you see like little bits of her home outside her filming area, she kind of strikes me as a bit of a hoarder, like a compulsive shopping kind of hoarder, because I don't know, it just seems excessive, and yeah, it just seems a bit much. It just seems a bit much, but yeah, very good for your hair. I used to use it. So yeah, there's like those are products. without peroxide, but and those are a little bit better for your hair, but they can be hard to come by. And if you're DIYing it, like getting stuff from Sally Beauty Supply, yeah, I never went to beauty supplies when I lived. Remember what some of the beauty supply chains are out there, but yeah, if you're dyeing your hair with component stuff, so like as its own bottle and active to go with the Sally's home brand, the Salon Care. Their Ion is pretty good too, but yeah, their Ion or but yeah, their Salon Care is definitely the most cost effective. The difference in price is between getting it with their healthier store brand, the Ion. I don't know, the price difference between that and getting, you know, like the little boxed kits from Walgreens or Ulta or something. The price difference seems kind of negligible to me when you're going, you know, with some of the higher end, the hard. Okay, so yeah, I learned the hard way, going from the peroxide-based dyes to henna, even the block. Why they don't do that, like without cutting your hair first? And I'm sorry, I have not had a haircut since. Oh God, yeah, I haven't had a haircut since the winter. My polar vortex plus my cat Vermin died that winter, plus Nigel came. So yeah, it's been about 7 going on 7.5 years this December. I have not cut my hair, and so yeah, I'm just like, you know, I'm not going. I'll just like deal with whatever happens as it happens. So yeah, so I'm just thinking I'll just deal with whatever goes on with my hair after, you know, the henna. So I learned kind of the hard way that henna, in spite of being a lot better for your hair as a colorant, like at least a lot better for your hair's condition, especially the oh crap, I need to fill the base before. I'm like, wait a second, I'm forgetting a step here. So yeah, in spite of the fact that henna is better at, you know, it does really it conditions your hair really nicely when you dye your hair with it. On the other hand, it will strip out peroxide developer dye, or, you know, developer based dye. A couple higher cost brands that say they don't use peroxide, which kind of makes me wonder how it works even. Of course, a lot of those ones say that it's for semi-permanent results. I don't know. All I know is that I don't use that anymore. That's the main thing I know. I kind of wish that you know, aside from the fact that it would make me an even bigger gay stereotype, I would have at least been, you know, it would have given me a means of making money at home legally. I mean, I make money at home legally either way. It's just like, if I were going to put up a Craigslist ad, as a hairdresser, they really want you to have your license in most states. I'm sure there are a couple places where people aren't going to be like huge sticklers about that and just like troll Craigslist to find people for doing hair unlicensed. But basically, I'd set my own hours. I'd work out of my home, all of that. But yeah, the one the one cosmetology school that I really had a chance of getting to, they literally asked for this was the Douglas J Academy in Lansing, Michigan, not the one here in Ann Arbor. But yeah, like I went through and like filed the FAFSA everything for the educational grant and all of that, and yet when it came time to start the rest of the enrollment process, they said, "Oh, we really need a letter of recommendation for teachers," and this was in 2011, early 2012. So I was how old am I now? Yeah, so I'm like 31, 32 years old. I hadn't been in high school in about 15 years at that point. So like and I said, is there any kind of way to waive that ridiculousness? And the woman just straight up told me, "Oh no, this is a requirement." I don't know if this is one of those things where like each Douglas J Academy is allowed to operate under their own rules or something, or if this is just like a chain-wide policy of theirs. But yeah, like it's really soured me on the notion of trying to apply to the one here in Ann Arbor. Well, okay, here is Ypsilanti. Ann Arbor is like the next town west of Ypsilanti, but it's it's the same transit system. Ypsilanti takes in all the people who got priced out of Ann Arbor years ago, such as myself, actually. And while there is another cosmetology school in the area that I know about, I have seen the woman in charge of that one, and she the way she does up makes Tammy Faye look subtle. So if you're about as old as me, or if you want to Google Tammy Faye Baker or Tammy Faye Mesner, as she was known as later in her life, though most people just know her as Tammy Faye. She was something. She was something. She first rose to prominence as a relatively minor celebrity from I think Christian Broadcasting Network, and but yeah, like one of the big things that like really brought her to greater public attention was this scandal with her then husband Jim Baker, who I forget exactly what he was fined and went to jail for. I know he went to jail for some amount of time. I don't know exactly how much. I don't know how much of his sentence was put aside in whatever ways. But yeah, I know he got into some legal trouble over some kind of financial mismanagement of his mega church, of like his televangelism. Okay, I think this thing is this is only giving me top chat. Why does it default to top chat? Okay, let okay, so let me go back. Okay, things are it's a lost cause for me to dye my hair because it seems to wash out in a matter of 2 weeks, no matter if it's supposed to be permanent dye or not. I've noticed that with a lot of dyes lately. I think it's just the way that dyes are going lately. Like, people want it gentler on your hair, which makes sense. So, like, the last time I got a tube of the allegedly permanent from Sally to mix my own, which is another reason that I went with henna because like okay, it is definitely that's fine, but I'm like if it's going to be fading with every shampoo anyway, I might as well go with the gentlest possible thing I can use, even if it does cost me a little bit more each time I do my hair and touch up the color, which for me, a full block of henna from Lush, um, I can get 3 months out of that. They so it's got these so it's got the little it's got the little sections of the blocks marked stamped in with their different designs. So I just go like 1/3 one, and that seems to be plenty enough for my hair to do my so. Uh, so yeah, unlike the haunted bat in her first video trying out the henna, I use a box grater to do it. Like, not only did the guy at Lush recommend that to me, and he was so ah so like there's Pet Shop Boys, and that is like the ubiquitous gay synth pop band. But then there's Army of Lovers, who just like turn up the gay. He was a bit closer to the Army of Lovers spectrum of our synth pop bands. But yeah, so like not only did he recommend that, it just made sense to me, reading the instructions online, that using a box grater would be a little bit more efficient than chopping it up with a knife. But I guess they decided to write up the instructions in a way that um, like even a college student with limited kitchen utensils could do. Like, everybody's got a knife and if you don't have a wooden spoon, you can probably find one at the thrift for very inexpensive. So and if you can't find one at the thrift shop because everybody else got to at first, then just like go to Walmart. They're like $1 there, right? And yeah, so like I said, like the double boiler, that's pretty much what they were giving instructions for. In fact, like I've seen old recipe books, and there's century that will like offer tips and tricks at the beginning of the book, or maybe in an appendix at the end, that will recommend that if you don't have a double boiler, just like put a large glass or stoneware mixing bowl, or like just large enough to like cover the lip of a cover the mouth of a saucepan. So like just that large enough that it'll cover the mouth of a saucepan, and just like do it that way. So like there's your easy double boiler. I've had a double boiler for a few years because I like to melt chocolate and make candies sometimes. So yeah, that's why I have a double boiler, because if you make candies a lot, or at the very least you make various fondues and stuff, which I also like to do, then a double boiler will save you a lot of headache. So but yeah, I like making my own candies. I like making my own fondues. So I have a double boiler. Yes, it is metal, but it's enamel coated. And that's the important part, is that like henna does not touch metal. I guess it reacts poorly according to everything I've read about it before I started doing it at home. Okay. So I see Desert Witch says, could never be a cosmetologist, can't cut straight. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so it says I've got 10 people watching. If you can actually like see and hear me and all of that. Hey, Amy, which Amy? Oh, hey! Amy Necrotique is here. Finally. What time is it? Okay, so it looks like you logged in like maybe a minute ago. Okay, I just hadn't seen chats move for a little while, so I was getting a little frustrated with that. I don't know why I graded this all first when um oh, that's all right. uh I'm a bit of a night owl. Oh shit. I was thinking of calling my aunt earlier this afternoon, and yes, so is technically afternoon. But yeah, I was thinking about that earlier in the afternoon, like not too long after I got up, and then I just got into the zone with shawl I've been working on. I've been working on 3 shawls, no, 4 now. I started working on one last night when the yarn I was using on one that I started a couple of weeks ago, but I had to get more yarn for it because I am the worst at estimating exactly how much I need. Um, no, it's okay. You don't have to be chatty. I just like sometimes I'm just like, okay, is everybody like still actually logged on? Like, is the thing moving or is the live stream being upset with me for whatever reasons? So yeah. Oh gosh, it's at the so like I'm at the cycle of Catholic guilt where like okay, so back in June, early in June, I said to my aunt that, like check in about another week, or two. And, she said cool. I said cool. We both said cool. And, the multi, oh, that one, I don't know. I put that down for a little bit just because after realizing that either the pattern was written incorrectly, and I've noticed that with the one that I just started on last night, but had okay, it says there's only one person watching the stream, and this does not sound right. This does not look right to me. Yeah, now we've got 0. I'm gonna... Shit. Okay, my phone decided to do some kind of update that it does occasionally, and that rebooted my whole phone, which now I've got to resume the stream. So hopefully people come back to this after they realize it's back on or something, or whatever. I don't know. Goddamn. I forget what all was going on about before, but the the last couple of days, I've been, especially yesterday, I've been having a time and a half with Sprint. So they're my mobile phone carrier. Okay, is all well and good. They've got relatively decent ratings as far as like their mobile service and all that is concerned. Customer service could use a little work from various reviews from all sorts of people all over their service area, but that's another story for another time. But so yeah, back I want to say December or January, whenever it was that Prince's family announced this new um, posthumous what collection that they were releasing was going to be out this year exclusively through Tidal, the streaming service that is now at least partially owned by Jay-Z. I guess they formed initially in the Netherlands from my searching online, because I knew somebody famous who I couldn't care less about was involved with the company that owns Tidal. So, but I couldn't remember who. Like earlier this year, they they pitched that what's it called? There was going to be exclusive streaming of the Prince album over Tidal, and so I decided, okay, maybe this is where I could take part of this Sprint promotion, because I guess their company now owns 33% shares in Tidal streaming, and have since, I want to say, December of 2017. Now, this is important, and I know December 2017 is important because this is when one of the Sprint service reps I was speaking to yesterday, I was on the phone with Sprint yesterday for nearly 2 hours with Sprint, maybe closer to 2.5, because I ended up stopped up at Home Depot picking up some screws I needed for so okay, there's my bookcase there. I scavenged that this tall bookcase here, but it's starting to lean. So I picked up a thing. What's it called? One of those 90-degree plate things. I'm sure at least somebody will know what I'm talking about when they at least come to see the archived take of this later. But yeah, so I got one of those little things. But my screws that I have are not they were too small for the little thing that I got at Home Depot the last time I was in there. Well, before yesterday anyway. The time I was in there before yesterday, and I got those things. I didn't get the right size screws. It didn't even occur to me while I was in there that, oh, hey, different size screw heads are a thing that might be important for this. So yeah, I had to go back for screws. I also decided to pick up a couple of anchors for the wall, because I've got a couple things I want to put up on the hollow wall between the front room and my twin bed. So then what was I saying? So yeah, the whole title thing. So that's important because and of course it goes back to live chat, or to I did paint that part of the wall myself. Yeah, I did paint this myself. I have, in theory, oh gosh, I put a pause on that when Isaac's bedbug situation became clear inside here, and so I mean, to be fair, I also ran low on the teal paint as well at that time, so I was just like, okay, this is as good a time as any to put a pause on this. I'll just come back to it when combination of one, the bugs being out, and two, I can afford to get extra teal paint. So yeah. Yeah, in fact, I think there's an old archived stream that should be public. I don't know why it wouldn't be, where I'm just making more progress painting that part of the wall, and I don't remember if I was talking about anything, but Isaac came in from work, and that's when I shut off the stream because I cared about his privacy at that time. And yeah, I'm sure there's that nutter who still thinks that sharing his name is equivalent to doxing his information, but everybody who describes doxing in any useful, to any useful manner, there are things that are definitely doxing, and describing those is useful, but then there are things like somebody's name, which apparently some nutbags think is doxing, but if it is, Facebook is the biggest doxer of the... And yeah, I know there are privacy issues with Facebook, but at the very least, they say that your name will be public on Facebook. They tell you that this needs to be public. Certain other information they have listed as needs to be public. Only people in Detroit would know who. Yeah, well, Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, technically, but yeah, people only in this area would be able to figure out who he is. Plus, like, his first and last name are a common enough combination. Like, go to howmanyofme.com. Or if I was totally wrong on their URL, just like search how many of me, you'll find the website. It takes the public information from this is public information, right? And you can search by your first name, your last name, see how many people in the United States have your first name, have your last name, and have your combination of first and last name. Like my latest ex, Isaac, he is one of, several 100,000 men in the United States named Isaac James. They don't add in middle names on howmanyofme.com, but yeah, like just Facebook even. Like if you search Isaac Hunter James or Isaac H. James, you will still find a lot of people. If you go searching on like any phone book, records online, yeah, I know it's not like barely anybody uses a proper paper phone book anymore, but there's still like whitepages.com and all of that. You will still find several men named Isaac Hunter James, like even in Michigan alone. So yeah, like this is like most people who define doxing in any useful manner will say that if a potential employer will find this information about you on Facebook, it's public information and is not doxable, right? Like just like you can't dox somebody with something that vague, right? Now, me on the other hand, according to howmanyofme.com, I am the only Rowan Jarman McElroy in the United States. I'm one of a couple 100,000 McElroys. I don't remember how many Jarmans there are even approximately. I didn't search by last name Jarman. But I'm one of less than 2,000, or is it fewer than 2,000, people in the United States with the first name Rowan. So, like, like if anybody's first and last name is doxable, right? Like, I think I'm also the only Rowan McElroy in the United States. Like if I went back and had my last name made just McElroy and like moved the Jarman to a secondary middle name or a second middle name, a third name, something, I don't know. I know there are people with more than one middle name, usually from large and or royal families, but yeah. But yeah, like, so yeah, like if I were to put his address up online, that would be doxing. But yeah, so yeah, Isaac came home like toward the end of that stream, so I just kind of ended it there. Like that was when my and how much did it cost to legally change my name? In my case, my name was legally changed. All the fees were waived because I filed it through the county legal services of Washtenaw County, or no, Michigan legal services of Central and Southeast Michigan Washtenaw County branch. So basically, like I filed as a disabled and low income person through legal services. So, oh God, in fact, my lawyer that I was assigned to assist in this for me, she even took out of like her own, like it's like 3 years after the fact, so I'm okay sharing it, because she just said that like not to let this get out too far, or at least not that year anyway. But yeah, she took some of her own money to reimburse me because Michigan wants you to get fingerprinted when you go in to have your name legally changed. So, and that would have been $25, and unfortunately, that would have been a bit more than my budget could have handled at the time. Have to post your name change in the newspaper. In Michigan, yes, but it's in the it's posted in this really obscure newspaper that is about like yeah, it was posted in this really obscure like newspaper that's distributed to lawyers and legal offices. So it varies by state in the US. I know a lot of states want you to have it posted in the newspaper, like the legal paper or the legal listings section of your local newspaper. Yeah, mine was posted in this obscure Michigan legal journal newspaper. So, yeah, like one of those things that like nobody really reads outside of a bunch of lawyers, right? So, yeah, like I don't know like if I had been in Metro Detroit, if it would have been published and like the Free Press or something. You're I don't know, says 48 minutes, so that is how late you are. Say hi to Russell, aka Fat Jesus, everybody. He's one of my biggest Instagram followers, and I don't necessarily mean that physically. I'm sure there are much chubbier people creeping up my Instagram. I Oh, I get some of the weirdest DMs on Instagram. Not that many, but when I do get just random DMs from pervs, they tend to be really weird. But yeah, I want to wait until I have a good like I don't know, like 10 or so saved up before I make any kind of video about that. And if I were to make some kind of video about that, like I'm not even going to try with monetization on that thing because that's like no, that's just like asking for heartache. So yeah, I'm very with the whole henna thing. That would make a cool video. Yeah, like I don't know, like if you've got weird friends, Russell, like tell them to like send me weird ass DMs just to like artificially increase the chances of me doing that video sooner. I don't know. If you do that, I will find out some way or another. You'll probably tell me after the video got made, at the very least. You seem fairly honest. Ah. Seriously? So, okay. I think I'm good. Oh, me? I don't know. I'm kind of I'm kind of an asshole on the whole like follow back thing with Instagram and Twitter and stuff. I don't know, like I definitely like interact with people periodically. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I could add you back like after the stream, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know, like I interact with people when what? So yeah, like when people like hit likes on my stuff, I'll go and check out theirs. I kind of give myself like a 20-minute max on Twitter Instagram and Facebook each, like every day, 20 minutes max. Otherwise, I end up like in far more like BS with internet people than I ever wanted in my life. So if I seem like a little like hard to warm up to people on various social media, that's probably why, because I give myself a time limit on various sites, because I know that if I spent no wait okay I'm sorry, my like big thing of baking soda. I don't know why Calvin put baking soda in this. I know why he left it for me. So Calvin was the guy I was seeing before Isaac, um, and and Calvin and I broke up for a couple of reasons. Well, it was one of those things. Well, okay, like in most relationships, there's in many relationships, maybe not most, but in many relationships, there's a in fact, a relationship's not going to work if somebody is, if one person is a lot more into the other person than the second person is into the first person. So, yeah, that was a thing that happened. And I could tell that, like, Calvin was way more into me than I was into him. But that's not a big thing that broke us up. But at least on my end, I really got the impression that oh gosh. So his parents own his apartment building, or at least they own several units in his apartment building anyway. He lives in this building like in Ann Arbor, like well within the Ann Arbor city limits. It's like his building is like a stone's throw from UMich campus, which, okay, like, in case my little fan kid who thinks that a first and last name is doxing someone, like, like I let out about my ex Isaac on that time I replaced the belt in my vacuum cleaner over live stream. But yeah, so but yeah, Ann Arbor is kind of a glorified university campus. So when I say that his building is like a stone's throw from University of Michigan campus, that's pretty much like the parameter of downtown Ann Arbor is University of Michigan campus. Like a good 75% of the downtown Ann Arbor area. Yeah, the downtown area of Ann Arbor proper. About 75% of downtown Ann Arbor is University of Michigan campus. I am not joking. Well, at least half. You're getting much closer to 75% every day at the very least. But yeah, like downtown Ann Arbor, it's a glorified university campus. That's why people often end up getting priced out of Ann Arbor into Ypsilanti or even Lansing. Like, I know a lot of displaced Ann Arbor townies who realized that, like, after their parents stopped paying for them, they couldn't afford to live in Ann Arbor anymore, so they ended up moving to Lansing or to Adrian, which is, I'm like, closer to Tecumseh for high, really, but it's like, Lenawee County, Michigan is one of the worst places to be a teenager. There's nothing to do for a teenager, like not even now. And for young adults, it's like, it's kind of laughable. Like, I don't know, like I spent the summers in London with my eldest sister, my brother-in-law. So in comparison to London, England, I find Ann Arbor's excuse for a nightlife kind of laughable. But it's a lot better for teenagers and young adults in Ann Arbor than anywhere in Lenawee County is. And that is, like, when people say to me that, oh, it's gotten so much better since you've been there, really, like, I noticed that they're all, like, middle-class white kids who were born and raised in Ann Arbor. And, so when I run into people who did not have that kind of upbringing, like my friend Willow, her boyfriend Joey Black, and he's nice enough. He's working on a tattoo apprenticeship as well. But yeah, he lived in Adrian for a while, and he hated it. He hated it. And he's about my age too, and he like lived in Adrian fairly recently too. So yeah, I'm like, no, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it because like one of there was something about Lenawee County like after my dad remarried and we moved in with my stepmother that I found like kind of unnerving, and that's where that went. Okay. I found it kind of unnerving, and it didn't hit me until like maybe a couple weeks into the school year after we moved in with my stepmother to her little chicken farm outside Tecumseh. That the thing that I found so unnerving about Lenawee County, Michigan, was how white it is. That is that is straight up the whitest city I have ever lived in, and um, like that's like I spent a couple of weeks in Salt Lake City. I seriously considered moving to Salt Lake City for a brief time, very, very brief time. I considered that. You know what I said? Considered. Okay, but yeah, like I would say Lenawee County, Michigan, like any city in Lenawee County, is easily whiter than Salt Lake City, Utah, and there is a lot of like sketchy racial stuff about the Latter Day Saints and the history behind that. I looked it up one time. The history behind that is a lot more to do with the guy who ended up taking over for Joseph Smith. So Joseph Smith kind of left the the church officially. He left it to somebody else, to a friend of his who I don't remember much, but I do know that like one of Joseph Smith's best friends, at least like later in his life, was a free black African American. So Smith himself isn't where all of this sketchy racialized stuff in the Mormons comes from. It's from the guy who basically took after Smith died. At least as best as I can tell from relatively, less biased sources. So like not the official LDS website or anything. So yeah, like, but yeah, it's still like there's some like, yeah, that's what I was saying. So yeah, there's like some really weird racial history with Salt Lake and all of that, but I would still say anywhere in Lenawee County, even Adrian, like the biggest city in Lenawee County, is easily the whitest city where I have ever lived for more than a week. So like, an extended 2-week vacation in Salt Lake City, that was, I found that more racially diverse than like, okay, yeah, it is the biggest city in Utah by a pretty wide margin, I believe. I think Provo is, I don't remember what their next biggest city is in Utah, but yeah. But yeah, it's their biggest city in Utah by like a pretty wide margin. So yeah, it's probably going to be more diverse than this podunk rural town in southeast Michigan. But still, it's like that is what struck me as so creepy about Lenawee County. Even, their big city of Adrian. To be fair, oh, son of a bitch. Okay, well, I guess I am doing brownie brittle tonight. I got this brownie brittle dry ingredient envelope thing because it's chocolate that I can have. But yeah, like I set the what's it called? The butter out here a couple of days ago. It was wrapped, but it just fell, so it's like fully softened, and it's all like it just fell. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not putting off the brownie brittle any longer. I was kind of thinking of putting it off until Wednesday, like, stick the butter in the fridge or something and put it off until Wednesday just so that, like, I'm not having brownie brittle staring at me until game night on Thursday. But at the same time, I'm like, I could exert some willpower and all of that. So, speaking of willpower, I don't know why I've been binging on My 600-Pound Life over Hulu lately, but I feel like a terrible person watching that show. At the same time, it's oddly fascinating to me because my dad's eldest, Ruby, so my half sister Ruby, half sister on my dad's side, she at one point weighed over 600 pounds and had a gastric bypass, and she this was at a time she was not living with us. This was when she moved back in with her mother as an adult. So, hold on. Garbage disposal. Whoop, not the sponge. Sponge stay out of the sinkhole. There we go. But yeah, then what was I? Oh, right. Ruby. So yeah, my younger sister Molly had a gastric bypass when she passed 400 pounds at the age of 18, I believe. So yeah, like I've had two members of my family. Like I'm the only one of my dad's kids who never passed 250 pounds, which I know that's like a low bar to set for, that just sounds like such a low bar to set for like something that your average person will be able to accomplish, like that kind of low bar. But at the same time, to be fair, I was so I'm one of those people where like my sense of empathy can get really borked up because of my anxieties. So I was living with an ex of mine, and we were already exes when I was still living with Scott. Scott is my best ex for a number of reasons. One I like to joke is that he and I have known each other too long that if we can't stay friends, then we're both doomed. But yeah, he and I have just like known each other for so long. But yeah, when he gets into a depression hole, when he was in a depression hole, I just kind of like absorbed it myself to some degree. And to be fair, I was also having this was fairly early in my transition where like, okay, I had to do the chest surgery first or, before HRT. So, like otherwise that wouldn't have, like, what would be the point in that cup size, which, I'm sure if somebody wanted to do, plug my name into a search engine, they could easily find out what my old bra size was. But they were as big as my head. I am not even joking. But yeah, they were just too big. They were just too big. Like even binding was not a thing I was able to do. So yeah, I had the surgery, and even like a good the first 6 months into testosterone when because I was just young enough when I started it, and a part of it was also related to genetics, but so yeah, like there were like a whole lot of physical changes that came through like really fast for me based on at least I'm saying really fast compared to a lot of other trans guys I've talked to about this. So the changes, most of the physical changes from HRT, surgery, that was like pretty much completed my first year of transition. Like my voice dropped significantly after about 6 months on HRT. So but still, like I was having this like incredibly dysphoric period that first couple of years because living in the same city at the time. So the Ann Arbor Ipsy area. Um, this is where I finished high school. This is where where I had like my first few jobs before my physical capacity of employability just like was no more. Like so so yeah, like my neighbors and everything were not getting with the program. Like I was being happier with like my physiology that first couple of years, but I was still experiencing rampant gender dysphoria, even though, according to most people I met online, or most people from outside the Ann Arbor Ipsy area, like people who did not live in this area, who I did not interact with every week, like, at one of Scott's comfort foods is Taco Bell. So it's like, we're not going to the same Taco Bell. We're going to a Taco Bell under, like out in Livonia or something for whatever reason, because we're in Livonia that day. And so like people would say no, and what's your order, sir? To me, obviously. So yeah, I was in a bit of a gender dysphoria induced depression hole along with Scott, who was in his own depression hole for a number of reasons. Part of which being he has a serotonin deficiency, and Zoloft helps his neurology regulate that. And he was off his Zoloft for a good while because of the short version is insurance reasons. So yeah, like he and I were in this depression hole that was like kind of bouncing off of each other, and just because of like how my own personal sense of empathy works, I kind it's kind of like I absorb other people's feelings if they're feeling something strongly enough around me. So yeah, like even after moving to Lansing, and um and people there did not know me. Well, many people there did not know me because that's where Scott went to college. Yep, he's a Michigan State boy. So yeah, Scott was a Michigan State student. So of course, having finished high school at Pioneer in Ann Arbor, I get to goof on him a lot. Oh God, I miss the old Rocky Horror crowd that used to do Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's a new crowd of people. A lot of them are very lovely, but like one of our old jokes. So you get to the dining room scene in Rocky Horror, and one of our old local, like unique local things we'd shout at the screen was was 4 years at MSU, grab meat with hand. 5 years at MSU, stab meat with fork. So yeah, so we would, and that's why I missed the original Rocky crew, because we keep that like petty frenemy rivalry between U of M and MSU going, or at least we did. And then like all those old school Rocky people went off and became like responsible adults. I fucked off to California, Chicago, Cadillac, Salt Lake, Charlottesville, Chicago, and then back here for a couple years. Then to Lansing with Scott, and now back here. So it's like I don't know. A couple other such people did similar enough, but that's okay. Rocky Horror. Oh yeah. So yeah, my 600-pound life. That's where I started going on about all of this. And none of you people go to my game night. I can. Okay, I guess I can't. Okay. Oh, there's the kitchen shears. They fell off with the butter. All right. So yeah, my 600-pound. I do have like very strong empathic tendencies for stuff and everything. Oh, that's right. So let's see. So this is the Betty Crocker brittle mix brownie, because I can't have the peanut butter, the peanut brittle that they do, or the chocolate chip cookie brittle that they do, but I can have the brownie brittle that they do. And you want to add 1 stick of butter. Yours probably would not be mushed because it fell off the side of the sink. Um, I did this a couple of weeks ago, but then I remembered that it was a food pantry distro week rather than a game night week. So, oh yeah, my food stamps are still hella borked up. I do still intend on going to see my caseworker's supervisor because she actually gets shit done. But yeah, other things keep coming up, and tomorrow is Columbus Day, so I can't do this tomorrow because like the bus is running tomorrow. That's fine. Comes out of a oh yeah, I've got a little home hand crank butter churn as well. Bed Bath and Beyond with one of those 20% coupons that they will honor no matter what the expiry date is. Like I've got a stack of Bed Bath and Beyond coupons that I've had since I moved in here. Like I go through them like very gradually, of course, obviously, but like when I do, yeah. Well, because cream costs so much at the stores, I've even got like shelf stable little like cartons, like 8-ounce cartons of cream that I get from Trader Joe's. They're like $1.50, maybe $2 at Trader Joe's, which is seriously like the best price I've seen on whole cream. But yeah, it's like cream costs so much, so like if I'm making butter, I'm making some fancy pants butter that I don't want to use in cookies, right? Like I'm gonna put a little bit of garlic oil in it, and maybe some fresh chopped chives from my balcony herb garden. So yeah, when I get out my little hand churn for butter, it's because I'm making something fancy for like, you know, either just for my own enjoyment because I'm a sad, sad cat daddy, or because I'm having company over, like on Thanksgiving or winter solstice or whatever. Granted, I'm one of those people who invites a whole lot of friends to come over for the solstice and or Thanksgiving, and like if I'm lucky, 2 people show up, so but that's okay because I have kitties and I have live streams. And speaking of cats, what was yeah, the Amazon suggestion on I posted that to Instagram if people didn't notice that. So okay, like in your Amazon profile you can set up your family and include your pets, and so, like my Amazon family is like me and 3 cats, right? And of course, I went into PetSmart yesterday and they have the little adoption center at PetSmart. And there are 2 cats there that I really want to bring home. One of them is a 1-year-old female, tortoiseshell, but mostly black. So like none of the white in her, just like black and, black in that rusty orange color. But she's mostly black, and she's just so adorable and sweet. But she's a year old, so she should have no problem finding a family. But the other boy, he's 4 years old. He's almost as big, if not slightly bigger than Nigel. Like as far as like, so like Nigel is like really long and tall for a cat. Like I joke that he is, well, by weight, he is twice the size of Murnau. So Nigel is probably my least seen in my videos because every time the camera comes out, Nigel decides he's having none of this shit and and goes somewhere else for the most part. But he is my favorite boy. He is my favorite boy. He and I have a lot of history together. But yeah, like part of that history was he was abandoned on my old street in Lansing the same day maybe 2 days after my cat Vermin. So her biopsy came back terminal. She had an inoperable tumor in her jaw, and like it was in the bone. And the vet even said like there was like maybe a 36-hour window of time when the tumor would have been operable. So, if we hadn't got it in time, we would have been like that 1 in a million chance of getting it in time, right? So, like, I tried not to make myself feel too bad, or not to let myself feel too bad about it. So I went off onto the porch at the old Lansing house, and then what happens is I end up having what ended up being, because that was the same winter as the polar vortex, so that was 2012. This was also the same winter Bob died. Like, he even died on the winter solstice. He even died night of the winter solstice in 2012, which is also the year of the Mayan calendar cycle ending. So Scott and I joked that, the Mayans foretold the end of Bob. And and we had a kind of a laugh about that because Bob was 20 years old when he passed. He was diagnosed with inoperable intestinal cancer plus a brain tumor that gave him seizures when he was 15 years old. The vet told us that he had 6, maybe 12 months tops, right? And Bob probably thought, because Bob had this uncanny ability to understand humans speaking English, he probably thought to himself, man, screw you, lady. They're not going to tell me what to do. I tell me what to do. These guys don't even tell me what to do. I just agree with them half the time. So, yeah. So we were kind of expecting Bob to go any day now, even if only by his own decision. And we're pretty sure that's what he was doing. Was like, because every time we started talking, because like if something was happening that and Bob didn't seem so easy on his feet that week or something, we'd think to we'd say to ourselves, like even if Scott brought it up though, Bob knew when we were talking about maybe thinking about euthanasia if he doesn't seem that much better at the end of the weekend or something. Like this was like most of this was most of our conversations about Bob his last year was like occasionally toying with the idea of taking him into the vet to be put down, and then deciding against it because Bob heard us from across the house or from the other floors of the house and rushed right into Scott's bedroom and then started yelling at me about it. Like, Bob would yell at me. Even if Scott was the one who brought it up, Bob would yell at me. Probably thinking that Scott wouldn't even be thinking this if I hadn't put the idea in his head. Scott and I had this ongoing saga of how Bob seemed to resent me for a number of reasons, possibly. But, but Bob would be affectionate toward me, a lot. Yeah, we just it was one of those things like like with little older sibling, younger sibling kind of thing that he thought was going on, where like he where he thought that. So yeah, after about 2 years of Scott and I living together, and then so like when I was coming over, when I was just like Scott's significant other who'd come over like maybe spend a weekend or something, Bob was fine. And then Scott and I moved in together, and it was like 18, maybe 20 months before Bob decided that I was fine again. So yeah, that cat was weird. But 2012. So yeah, Nigel, it was 2 days before Halloween. Vermin's biopsy came back terminal. Like, this was an inoperable tumor in the bone of her jaw. She was not going to make it through the winter. 2 months at best, he gave us. And yeah, it was pretty much like first week of January, Scott and I took her in because she could no longer eat. Like, it was at a point where like I was putting heavy cream milk on my fingertips and trying to encourage her to lick it off my fingertips, just to get through the night, just to have enough nutrition in her to get it through the night. And it was obvious that Vermin was only like lapping it up off my fingers because she wanted me to stop crying, sort of thing. It felt like. But yeah, like back to that October, I went out to have what ended up being one of the last cigarettes I ever had. Not intentionally, but just because it was polar vortex winter, and I, yeah, the reason that I did smoke on the porch is because, Vermin had asthma, and yeah, she was dying, but I liked the cat better than I liked smoking indoors, and it's like, yeah, this is going to be her last winter, but there's no reason for me to be a dick about it and like have her uncomfortable and wheezing, you know, during this last winter of hers. So yeah, that's how I ended up quitting smoking. I didn't smoke that much to begin with anyway, but it was yeah, polar vortex and a cat with asthma. That's how I ended up quitting smoking. Completely by accident, because like I said, I didn't intend to, it just kind of happened. So ended up being one of the last cigarettes I ever had. Last full cigarettes I ever had. I'd had a couple hits off. I just ended up like, that was a stressful enough summer for me with the whole like surgery thing earlier that summer, and everything. And when I got back home after surgery, my apartment, which I cleaned up like wonderfully, like, yeah, there was this weird there was this weird stain on the kitchen floor that no matter how much I mop it, it won't come up. There's a little cart over it right now, but or is the no, wait, I think I did finally get that stain up. I think I did finally defeat the stain, but yeah, so I had the carpets cleaned by because the what's it called? The building manager, they give you one free carpet steaming a year, or at least your first carpet steaming of the year is free. If you call to have them redo it, that's something like $40, I think. Where did I put the thing? Ah, there it is, in the sink. The right time. Oh, 10 to 13 minutes. I set for a little under 20. Okay, there we go. Oh, I was thinking bread. Never mind. I was thinking this bread recipe that needed 18 minutes. Okay. So yeah, the thing. What's the thing? Oh right, Nigel. That's why I was going on about this. So I go out to have what ended up being accidentally and not on purposely one of the last cigarettes I ever had, full cigarettes anyway. Oh right, I brought up Molly ODing. Like, I ended up buying a pack of cigarettes. It took me most of a year to get through that pack of cigarettes because, like, I couldn't take more than one or two drags at a time before this was just too much for me. So yeah, like, oh god, no, yeah, I didn't even finish that pack. I ended up giving like most of it to my friend Jessie when I ran into her downtown. Right, Nigel. So Nigel, when I went out onto the porch to have a cigarette because I'm stressing his full head off. Now, one of the stray cats on our old street in Lansing had kittens the year we moved in there. So yeah, that would have been January 2011. So she had kittens that spring, so they were like a year and a half old at that point, and they knew us. The kittens knew us. The ones who survived generally hung out because they knew we were suckers, and we'd been slowly but gradually getting them, you know, like with the trap neuter release thing. And then one of them that we named Jules, we ended up giving him to somebody who would take care of him because he's one of those cats that does not need to be outside. That we were surprised that he managed to, you know, like, kind of joked that if we weren't feeding him, he wouldn't know what to do with his life. But yeah, he pretty much acted like a house cat, just like spent most of his time outside and on the porch. But yeah, that's that thing. So yeah, I'm thinking like Dum Dum Jules needs me to go rescue him from somewhere because I'm hearing this cat, like, you know, mewling his full head off, like crying and drawing attention to himself. And I'm thinking, okay, well, goddamn, where do I have to rescue Jules from now? Because this wouldn't have been the first time I needed to do that. This is why we found somebody to take in that poor little guy. Like, because he just did not have too much, you know, going for his survival on his own. And of course, whoever moved into the house after Scott and I moved out could not necessarily be trusted to keep feeding him. So I went out on the porch, and from underneath the porch next door to us, so like on the complete opposite side of where Jules and his litter mates were born, like the porch next to us, out runs this little black kitten who was a little, in the 4.5, just under 5 pound range about. Starts snuzzling all over me like I'm the greatest person in the world, and I'm going to give him all the love he can manage in the world, and I have saved him from the big scary outside world. And it was wonderful because and I just like and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know you. Like when like our old street in Lansing, this is Mifflin Avenue, it's Grand River Avenue, I believe. It has a reputation for being like, in fact, the waitresses at Theo's, which is like the 24-hour diner that's like right up at the corner of in Lansing, like real close to Mifflin. Oh, Max Bar, that's what's up at the corner, and then like the next street down is Theo's. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I got confused with for a second. But yeah, she asked us like the weekend we were moving in, oh, is that the street with all the cats? So yeah, our neighborhood had a reputation for this colony of stray and feral cats. So the distinction I make between strays and ferals is strays can become house cats, like Jules. Like, strays can become house cats. Ferals can, may eventually learn to live with people, but they're not like they are functioning like they are functioning on a far higher like survival mode. Like they're functioning far closer to like wild animal survival mode than a stray cat is. So like they can learn to live with people eventually, like if you work with them constantly, but they're probably always going to want to go back outside and want to spend time outside and all of that. So they're not the best to rescue from the neighborhood and make your personal house cat. But yeah, a stray cat is. A lot of times though, strays are also they can also, like, a lot of times strays can become house cats because they are either like genuinely lost. They're somebody's house cat who is either genuinely lost or straight up abandoned by their previous owner. Like that's another distinction for strays. So yeah, so he's like snuzzling all over me. But yeah, when you're on the street with all the cats, you get to recognize the cats that were born and grew up in the neighborhood. Sometimes you'll make up little stories about their day, which is how like the webcomic Achewood ran for so many years. So like we would make up stories about them, all the cats we'd see. But yeah, so this like 4.5 or so month old kitten is just suddenly snuzzling all over me like I'm the greatest person in the world and I'm his new best friend. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know you, cat. And then like I sarcastically open up the screen door and I'm like, you want in? We're gonna be short a cat in a couple months. And he just wanders right in. He just steps right in like this is his home now. This was Nigel at 4 months old. He steps right in like this was his home now. That he lives here. Of course this is his home. I invited him in. I told him to come in, and he finds the litter box that's like almost directly across the room from the front door, and like and he like makes a beeline for the litter box. Immediately uses the litter box, buries it sufficiently, and then gets up onto the spot on the couch where I had been sitting when I got the news that Vermin's tumor was inoperable. And then I like knock on Scott's bedroom door and I'm like, hey Scott, we've got a 4th cat for a while. Like, what? I'm like, go check out my spot on the couch. Like, I just let in a kitten. So like I'll make a good faith effort to see if somebody genuinely lost him, but if nobody claims him, then he was abandoned and he's my cat now. So yeah, that's how Nigel came into my life, because he did not know how to take a crap outside like any other cat in the world would have figured out by then. Like, I don't know how long he'd been outside, by the time I found him, but apparently he really had to go. And when he had to go, he had to use a litter box because he's a civilized cat. He's not some animal living in his filth. Like, yes, Nigel, we're talking about you. He's like loafing like clear across the front room from me right now, but I need to tighten the springs on this again. So that's why I'm shaking it. That's why I periodically like shake it. I don't know how much of this was seen by the thing, but yeah, like I said, I need to tighten the springs on this. It's mechanical, so that's what's going on with it. Oh yeah, Nigel was totally just meant to be my boy, and that's one of the reasons that he's probably my favorite cat right now. Cause yeah, like he just he just came at just the right time. That I like I you know I was spending the rest of that winter watching vermin die um and you know keeping Nigel company, and he was keeping me company, and he would end up on my lap a lot when he saw I was being extra sad and all of that. And yeah, I was also trying to, because Scott's cat Chunk, for some reason, Chunk has decided that the only cat, um, shortly after Vermin died, because we took her to the vet, for this. Otherwise, it was just like watch her starve to death over the next couple of weeks at home. So yeah, like Bob died at home. Bob died at home. He had one final seizure that he could not stand up from, and Scott and I stepped out to Walgreens to get him a hot water bottle just to like keep him comfortable, and we were gonna call Dr. Hoschek, the vet in Lansing that we always went to. Yeah, we were intending to call Dr. Hoschek like first thing the next morning, but nope, Bob just like passed while we were running out to Walgreens real quick to get him a hot water bottle just to keep him cozy. So, but yeah, oh, he was yelling at me after his seizure that he couldn't stand up from. But yeah, he decided that like nobody was going to tell him what to do. Nobody ever told Bob what to do. He just conveniently seemed to agree with his people about half the time. Only about half the time, because that's just Bob is one of those cats that Scott's college roommates still tell stories about at parties. And I know about this because a lot of his old college roommates and post-college roommates are still in Southeast Michigan. And those who are no longer in Southeast Michigan are still in touch with, those who stayed in Southeast Michigan. So yeah, like I said, like Scott's college and post-college roommates, a lot of them still tell stories about Bob at parties. Like this is like couple people are like microbiology program at MSU, and and work friends and stuff telling stories about this weird cat of Scott's. And of course, because a lot of Scott's college roommates and everything stay in touch. A couple of these guys still get, the continued stories of Bob, long after, having left the house that they were sharing with Scott. So yeah, but yeah, like after Vermin died, Scott's cat Chunk, who, like I said, for some reason, like she hated the porch cats. She would always like get the angriest faces at them, and but Vermin, Bob, they were okay with the porch cats. Every once in a while, we'd let Jules in, and like Vermin would like snuggle up on him and all of that. So like it wasn't a thing where they were like bothering, like they weren't being aggressive toward our cats. That's what we were saying. That's what I was saying about the porch cats, is they weren't being aggressive toward our cats at all, but Chunk just hated them. And she kind of learned to deal with Nigel the first couple months he was with us. And then Vermin died, like I said, like first week of January. So Scott and I think that it's maybe because Chunk didn't see Vermin die. Like she was there when Bob died. Like she was right there when Bob died. We saw her and Vermin just like loafing side by side on Scott's bed, because Yeah, it was the closest. It was the one on the first floor. So yeah, like they were loafing side by side on Scott's bed when we got home, and we think, okay, like they didn't want to be around the the body. Um, but they knew something was wrong, and they knew Bob was no longer with us. This was now like, yeah, Chunk kind of got her name like in part the character from Goonies who like everybody loves. Everybody loves that. Like, yeah, I know he's like, the stereotypical like, fat kid in an 80s movie, but like he's one of the best characters in that movie and everybody knows it. But yeah, like in part she was kind of named for that character, but also in part because she's one of those cats that after she got neutered, like she just put on a lot of weight. She got really chubby really fast after she got neutered, and we'd been calling her Puma and Bug before that. Like first Puma and then Bug, and Bug quickly became Chunk because because she was just so chubby. She was just so chubby. But yeah. So yeah, after Vermin died, like there were like after Vermin died, like Chunk got so pissy with Nigel. And so yeah, Scott and I think, okay, maybe it's because she was able to process Bob's death because she was there when it happened, but all she knew about Vermin's death was that Vermin was really sick for a while and couldn't eat one night, and the next day Vermin left with us and didn't come back home. So maybe like the only connection that Chunk made there was that Nigel had been on my lap a lot, and before Vermin died, and or in Chunk's mind, Vermin just didn't come back home after being really sick for a while. Um, like Nigel had been on my lap a lot, and Nigel had been like almost warming up to Scott. Nigel still has like serious stranger danger about a lot of people. He's not the biggest fan of Scott, but he kind of eventually learned to deal with Scott. I don't know why. Um, but yeah. So yeah, Scott and I think, okay, all she knew about Nigel was that like he suddenly showed up one day. She wasn't his biggest fan, but she learned to live with him for like after about a week or so. And then Bob died, and she was able to process that because it happened like right in front of her. And so when Vermin died, because it didn't happen in front of Chunk didn't process it in the same way, and she was taking it out on Nigel because she hated Nigel. Like a couple days after Vermin died, it occurred to me later that week that I had not personally seen Nigel for 2 days, but I heard the bell on his collar under the overstuffed armchair in the front room that Scott had. So I knew he was still in the house, but I personally had not seen him. And so Scott and I moved the armchair, and another reason that I knew he was under the armchair is because like I would periodically see Chunk go over to the armchair, like like crouch down and stare underneath it, and then growl a lot. And I'd say, Chunk, leave him alone, and she'd run off, and like I wouldn't hit her. I just like smack my hands, like leave him. But yeah, so it occurred to me that like I haven't seen my cat in 2 days. So we moved the overstuffed armchair. Nigel was indeed under there. He darted up to my bedroom, which was on the second floor. It was the second floor. It was the attic. I was an attic dwelling weirdo, like reverse hunchback, right? And Chunk sped right up after him, and so because the armchair was sitting over one of the heat sinks, so like there's the grate that where the hot air can sink down during the summer. So yeah, there were a couple poops through the grate. And obviously, Nigel knows how to use the litter box. This was how he came in. He came in to use the crapper, right? So yeah, the fact that he was willing to like go outside the box, because Chunk was threatening him if he got out from under the chair. That was just like like, I don't know, like they couldn't live together anymore. So that's one reason Scott and I no longer are, roommates. Um, Another reason was Scott's now ex-girlfriend couldn't stand me for some reason, and um, she said her reason was because I was kind of having a nervous breakdown watching Vermin die that winter. So Kara decided that my emotions were just too much for her to handle. And I'm like, what kind of Scientology BS is this woman talking? And so, yeah. But then again, like, I also decided that, like, it wasn't worth arguing, with Kara about that because earlier that winter, so Scott and I, like, because Furman, she had cancer in her jaw. Like, the tumor was in the bone of her jaw. So, it got a bit sizable. She would drool a lot because of the nature of the tumor being in the bone of her jaw. And so her gums would start protruding and her, cat teethers are sharp. So she would sometimes bite down on her gums weird and there would be a little bit of blood in the drool. So, but Scott and I got into the system really fast where, like, because Vermin was one of those cats who just loved to be on people's laps. Like, she was a lap lump. She would go, like, there were times when we had friends over just playing video games and chilling and all of that. And yeah, I know I was going to do my jeans, but after I got done with my hair, I was arguing with the streaming thing a bit much. And I was just like, you know what? I'll dye my jeans next week. Screw it. I'll dye my jeans next Sunday. Um, but then what happened? So yeah, like, but yeah, like, there would sometimes be friends over, like, playing video games, watching movies, and all of that. And Vermin would, like, do the tour of laps. So, like, we had the couches set up in an L shape, so there was the overstuffed armchair, and then the long couch, and then the love seat. Um, um, and for a while, they were set up in, like that kind of horseshoe shape. But at the Lansing house, they were set up in an L. But, there would, periodically be people over and, like, playing video games and stuff. And Roman would do the tour of laps, like, going back and forth across everybody, spend, like, 2 to 5 minutes on one person's lap and then go on to the next person and get kittens from them and then, snuggle on their lap for a few minutes and then go on to the next person. So, Vermin just loved being around people. She was such a sweet girl. And yeah, so, like, one day, Kara and Scott and I were, like, playing video games in the. So yeah, Scott and I each had a towel on our sides of the couch. We each had a towel on our own sides of the couch, like, like an old, like, kitchen towel or something that we'd put down on our lap so that Vermin could be on our lap. Stain our clothes with, blood and stuff. So Furman got to have lap, which is all she wanted from people, but she just wanted a nice warm lap for, from her people. That's all she ever wanted in the world. And, and we got to, like, have nice, like, unbloodied jeans, right? And like, Vermin is, like, moving from Scott's lap onto Kara's, and I'm about to hand Kara my towel. And Kara says, "Oh, no, Vermin, get off of me. You're gross." And I'm like, I'm just, like, stumped at this point. But I don't say anything because I know Scott does not want to hear it from me because he's getting laid. But I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with this woman? Like, this cat just wanted nothing more in the world than to just, like, show her some kind of affection that she didn't. Yeah, like, I've told friends of mine about that incident with Kara, which is, like, when I decided that, like, no, it's not worth, trying to, like, be friends with Kara or, like, explain anything that was going on. Like, first off, she's just like, if she thinks my emotions are too much to handle because I'm spending a winter watching my cat die, a cat that I'd had for 12 per 13 and a half years, I'm watching this cat die, and of course I'm going to be an emotional wreck that winter. Like, no matter how many other cats I have to, help comfort me. This was my best girl. This was my princess cat. She even had a rhinestone collar because she was my princess girl. It's like, she was also mean to the cancer kitty. And I'm like, no, this is not worth trying to repair anything that might have been, like, a friendship starting between she and I. Like, she can be Scott's girlfriend, fine, he has questionable taste at that point, in the time I've known him. But then again, I don't know, maybe he thought dating somebody like as unlike me as possible would have been helpful for him, especially considering that his current girlfriend, who's been with him about 2.5 years, I believe now, um, she looks a lot like I used to before transitioning, which is just kind of weird. Scott clearly has a type. Scott clearly has a type. I'll put it that way. Um, Whereas, like, and friends have pointed this out to him, and he'll kind of deny it, but at the same time, um, like he'll go. I don't know his responses to this when other people pointed out to him, because I have never pointed this out to him. I let other people do that. Um, when other people point this out to him, that like you seem to have a type, Scott. He'll be like, "Oh, you mean like the short hobbity kind?" Yeah, yeah, Scott, that. Or yeah, my friend Elizabeth. Um, she was the one to first point out to me that Jamie looks a lot like I used to before transitioning, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm glad you were the first one to say that, because I thought I was seeing things. I really did. I thought like maybe I had a big head about this, because and I don't really look much like any of Scott's, like neither pre-transition nor post. I don't really look like, um, yeah, pre-transition. I don't look like any of the women Scott had dated before me. Um, um, I don't think he'd ever had a long-term boyfriend before me. I know he refers to me as his ex-boyfriend now, like post-transition, which is fine. That's totally cool. But yeah, he he certainly seems to have a type, and um, so but yeah, Elizabeth also pointed out that so I've got a cute neighbor boy who I was kind of maybe thinking of pursuing if Isaac hadn't been around at the same time, because this was also around the same time that Elizabeth pointed out to me that cute neighbor boy um, looks a lot like a younger and slightly more slender version of Scott, and that just killed it for me. That just killed it for me. Like cute neighbor boy is like I can't anymore. It's like yeah you're right. He does look a little bit like Scott. Um, um, his face isn't quite as broad as Scott's is. Um, Scott has a Scott also has a no. Scott has a longer face than cute neighbor boy does. Um, but and and cute neighbor boy has brown eyes, whereas Scott has blue. But um, hair's about the same length. Similar glasses. Scott keeps facial hair. Cute neighbor boy does not, but they both have similar eyeglass frames. Even um, they both seem to put on weight in the same kind of way of like having some anti-gravity gut that like they put on weight looking like vaguely pregnant in a way. They're both very close in height. I think cute neighbor boy is about an inch and a half shorter. Yeah, Scott's like 5'3.5". Cute neighbor boy, according to his OK Stupid, no, not 5 foot, 6'3.5". Cute neighbor boy, according to his OK Stupid profile, is 6'2". But I would say I don't know. I'd say he's maybe 6'1", but he doesn't lie as outrageously about his height as some guys I know, which is another story for another time. So yeah, like there are some minor differences. I'm not, obviously they're not human replicas of each other, but at the same time, it's like my friend Elizabeth pointed out to me that cute neighbor boy looks a lot like Scott, like like aside from the fact that they're both long in the face, They both have very similar features, which is like their eyes are a little bit smaller relative to their face. But like I said, it looks a lot smaller on Scott because Scott's face is much longer. Um, they have a very similar hairline, even like their hairline is like damn near the same. Their hair color is almost exactly the same. Scott's a bit grayer because Scott's a bit older. In fact, I think I'm a bit older than Cute Neighbor Boy. Not by a whole lot, but still. Yeah, I dug up some old pictures of Scott when he was in college in the early 90s. And yeah, Cute Neighbor Boy does look a lot like younger Scott, before Scott decided to start keeping a Van Dyke, as in the facial hair. That's what it's called. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, can't do it anymore. Can't get interested anymore. I mean, I don't think he's unattractive, but like when I call him Cute Neighbor Boy now, it's not like, cute neighbor boy. It's like, aw, cute neighbor boy. So like, yeah, he still has the same nickname when I'm, talk. He's also bisexual like Scott, right? Like, it's like I went and found so yeah, after Elizabeth pointed that out to me, I'm just like, can't get into him anymore. Just it's like, nope, can't. But I was also looking at that younger guy that I know from the bus instead. So yeah, let me go see if that can go anywhere. And thus, that guy who turned out to be Isaac, who turned out to give my apartment a nasty, nasty case of bed bugs that I'm still paying for until February. But that's just my life. So I think I'm going to wrap up the stream now. The time this thing is giving me on the stream keeps going up and down. I'm not sure exactly how long I've been streaming. I know it's some amount of time past 11:30, so it's probably been a couple hours, but this still says 44 minutes and 34 seconds, 36 seconds, whatever. It's like, I don't know. So yeah, I know I was gonna, I initially hoped to do dyeing my jeans. I'm gonna put that off for another week. So yeah, jean stream is gonna be next week. That's about it. I want to get back to the front room and finish this shawl that's been vexing me. As always, feel free to hit, the like buttons. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe with the bell notifications and all of that. While I munch on my cookie brittle thing. And if you have more dollars than cents, I have a PayPal tip jar. I don't remember if I put it in the description box for the stream. It is in the description box of almost all of my other videos. I should, yes. I will. Wait, stop doing things. Stupid thing. Please stop. Okay. But yeah, I should, I will get around to, posting things about my, I will get around to, posting pictures of my hair after I, so when I've been doing the henna, I pretty much let it sit on my hair overnight. I have a towel that I just, like, put down on my pillow in my bed, because, the instructions on the Lush brick, the little, wrapper underneath this one, it says between 2 and 4 hours to let it sit on your head, but I've noticed it doesn't seem to, oh my gosh, the thing came on and out, says it's been only going like 35 minutes. This is why I want to log off right now without doing much anything else. I put henna on my head and I went rambling on about cats and my best ex and one of the ones who got away because he looks a lot like my best ex, and it's like Scott's a great guy, but it was one of those relationships where I just I yeah, Scott and I, it was one of those relationships where, we both really we both really loved each other in a very mature way. Um but long story short, we wanted two different things out of life, and um I took the initiative to say, Scott, I don't think this is going to work out in the long term anymore, and I would rather, we still, are able to stay friends after all of this, rather than like, end up resenting one another by trying to keep it together. And um and yeah, he reacted to that in his normal way, which, as his normal way, he got over it after a couple of days. But uh yeah, that's another story for another time. But yeah, as per always, like, subscribe, all of that. I need to refill my pill pods again tomorrow morning, so I will be streaming um Eastern Standard Time, about 1 in the afternoon to whenever. I also need to make sure that the bus is running tomorrow. I know the post office takes a holiday for Columbus/Indigenous Peoples Day. Uh, I know a couple of the locals. I think the local school district does as well. I Please don't quote me on that. I haven't been to Pioneer High School since 1999, so something like that. Um, but yeah, um, like, subscribe. I have a PayPal tip jar. My food stamps are still really borked up. It would be great if anybody could like find my the Amazon wish list that I put on a lot of my videos right now, like the first one up at the top. That is for like various grocery items. So if you think you want to get me like a carton of almond milk or something, that would be excellent. Or maybe some dry ingredients kits with, to make my own bread at home. I've been doing that lately, and it's actually worked out a lot better than I expected it to. Granted, I forgot that when you make your own fresh bread at home, you not only need to keep it in a Ziploc, but you need to keep it in the refrigerator, and like maybe take out like a couple cuts at a time to put in the bread box. But if you are going to put it in the bread box, right away, make sure you have a large enough family to use it in under 5 days or something, right? Or maybe don't keep it in a Ziploc where all the moisture stays in there. I ended up throwing out like about half of a loaf that I made last week, and like a week ago today, and it was looking great. Like the loaf looked great until this morning. The loaf stayed looking excellent until this morning. So the fact that I threw out half of a loaf when literally yesterday it looked great, this is my life, right? So yeah, like, subscribe, all that. Oh my gosh, I should get out of the kitchen because this brownie brittle is still like taunting me. Because it's still warm. Because it's still warm, and that's what is best. All right, take care. Bye-bye.